Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to another amazing Chat and Learn event with Power to Fly. We are so excited to have you join us today, and I can't wait to get started with today's chat. So let's jump in. Like I said earlier, my name is Meg. I'm part of Power to Fly's virtual hosting team, and I am so excited to see so many new people joining us. I can't wait to introduce you to our speakers. So let's go over some quick housekeeping items. For anybody that's joined us on previous chats, this will be a little repetitive, but bear with me, we'll go through it fast. Like all of our virtual events, we want you all to participate. Our attendees are what drives these events, what makes them feel so great and be so impactful. So please feel free to do that. You can do it a number of different ways. If you'd like to, you can turn your cameras on if you want to share your smiling, maskless faces with us safely. If you don't want to, if you're, there's no need to be Insta-perfect, messy buns, non-traditional workspaces, furry coworkers, all of it is totally accepted and welcome. So please feel free if you'd like, but no pressure. If you want to, you can come off mute to ask questions or add comments to today's conversation. If you do come off mute for whatever reason, you will show up on the live recording of today's session. So if you have any kind of privacy concerns, no worries, you can still participate. You just need to put any questions or comments you have into the Zoom group chat. And if you want to stay like deep cover, black ops, no one knows you're here, that's okay. All you have to do is DM me instead with your questions or comments. I will raise them and keep you anonymous. And you can find me on the drop-down menu. My name is Meg. So as we get going, like I said, this session is being recorded. We're also live streaming to our YouTube channel. So we're going to send you an email. Everybody that registered for this event will get an email in about 1 to 2 business days with a link to where you can rewatch this recording. And that is true whether you stay for 5 minutes, you stay for the full 60, you forgot to come today, you'll still get an email. Hi, future viewers. You'll still get an email that'll show you where you can rewatch this on our website. Now, if Trupti says something today that is just absolutely amazing and you cannot wait to share it with a friend or a coworker or a relative, no worries. You can always, like I said, head over to our YouTube channel. We're live streaming this there, and the recording should be posted in about, I would say usually within like 5 to 15 minutes of the end of today's session. Like I said, you can write in the chat if you have questions, comments, anything at all. And like I mentioned, our YouTube channel, I highly encourage you to subscribe there if you'd like. It's a great way to make sure that you never miss an awesome event like this. You can also check out our whole archive. We've got a ton of our chat videos posted there, as well as some on our website, and I'll send you links to that as well. If you do want to keep up with us, we are at Power to Fly on a ton of social media channels. We are at Power to Fly on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, in addition to YouTube. And you are so welcome to follow us there. You can also take photos and video as we go to share with your community. It's help spread the word about the resources that Power to Fly has, because they're free for everyone. And just share the love. We would love to see how far we can spread all of this and get people to partake in these free services and free resources. All right, so I'm super excited to introduce you to our speaker. So Trupti is here is a fintech leader, and she's here from AfterPay. Currently, she's the head of InStore Card Analytics and Strategy for them. But prior to this, she was the founding member and head of Uber Eats Risk and Disbursement Risk. And she has a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon University and a bachelor's in computer science. So welcome, Trupti. We're so happy to have you today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Before we jump into the questions for today's session, I just want to highlight real quick here. Obviously, Trupti is here on behalf of AfterPay. AfterPay is hiring, and they're one of Power to Fly's company partners. We're so happy to partner with them. So I'm going to share a link for you in the chat here. Let me grab my link here. This is a link to where you can check out AfterPay's company page on powertofly.com. Now, when you navigate to this link, let's see, there it is for y'all. When you navigate here, it'll look much very similar to what you're seeing on your screen right now. This is this is where you can check out information on the company. You can take that or check that open box, or sorry, check the events tab to see past recordings of events they've joined us with, as well as register for future events that they're going to partner on with us. You can also check out their open roles. I haven't checked the link this morning, but I know we've got a ton of open roles from them right now. And then the last thing I want to highlight on this page is when you go here at the top right-hand side corner of the screen, is going to be a big pink button that says follow. if what you're hearing from Trupti today makes you interested in AfterPay, whether you are actively job seeking or not, I definitely recommend you click that follow button. It's going to do a couple cool things for you, but basically what it does is it's going to let AfterPay know that you are interested in them without you ever having to fill out an application. But it's also going to keep you informed when AfterPay posts new roles. So even if you are not actively job seeking, maybe you're just kind of curious to see what's out there, I still recommend you follow AfterPay, especially if because it's a good way to make sure that when you do start going into to job search or really like kind of kick things off in a real way, you don't forget about some of these great companies that you've heard of. So please feel free to do that. It's a free service. You can follow and unfollow as many companies as you like. And you can follow and unfollow a company as many times as you like, but obviously I recommend that you follow AfterPay. So as we roll on over into today's Q&A portion, I just want to highlight a couple things. So what you're seeing on your screen right now is some of the principal themes that we're going to cover in today's conversation. Now, we brought these, or we compiled these both from conversations that we had with Trupti prior to today's session, as well as by looking at the questions that y'all submitted when you registered. So what we did is I grabbed all those questions, I tried to kind of arrange them into a conversational format, and we're going to try and cover these things that you see on your screen. Now, that being said, like I said about participation, we want to make sure that you all have a chance to drive today's conversation. So if you took time out of your day to spend with Power to Fly, we want to make sure that that time you spend is well worth it. We want to make sure that you come and get what you came for, and that you are able to really enjoy and utilize this chat to the fullest. So if you have a question that you asked previously and you want to make sure we answer it, please feel free to bring it up. You can put it in the Zoom chat. You can come off mute and ask if you like. The only thing we do ask is that you don't come off mute while someone else is speaking, or while, if you don't come off mute if you're not like actively asking a question. Please feel free to interrupt me though. I get paid to fill the silence. So, don't let me blabbering on deprive you of a chance to ask your question. You can also add context to your question if yours is one of the ones that we're going over. And like I said, you can do that via audio or in the chat or in DMs to me. And then I'm trying to think, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, y'all. And if you have other questions that occur to you, like, we're going over some question and you want some more clarification or want us to go into more detail, please feel free to ask that as well. So like I said, today we're going to try and go over these things. We're going to talk about some actionable steps you can take to develop the 0 to 1 mindset. We're going to help you understand the skills that will help you to really ace this mindset and effectively implement it in your life. We're going to talk about how you can prioritize the unknown, as well as how you can analyze project proposals. So to get more in on the tech side of this as well. So as we get going here, Trupti, I'm really excited to jump in and talk about this idea of the 0 to 1 mindset. Before we get into the first question, is there anything that you wanted to share with the audience, or anything you'd like to share about like why you wanted to talk about this subject? Anything at all? If not, we're totally good to just jump in.
Yeah, I definitely want to highlight that I'm hiring, and so is AfterPay. So that's why you highlighted that as well, but definitely want to underscore that. And you asked a great question. So why do I want to talk about it? I think I have found great success and also fulfillment. I think we'll talk about the definition of success in a bit, but by working on 0 to 1 projects in my career. So I've had luckily multiple stints of like I completely started as either the founding member of the Uber Eats risk team, and it's kind of like a 3-party marketplace. Very few of them exist, and it was risk. So the fraud is just exponentially so much more there when there are 3 parties. But anyway, without getting into the minutiae of it, like now I don't do risk anymore, but it's a fintech company and it's a card strategy, and card was relatively new when I started with this company. So taking these kind of challenging newer bets is what I like and I gravitate towards. I think I thrive in that environment. And so that's why I wanted to talk and share a little bit about those aspects.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Okay, so to get into our first question, and this was one that was asked a lot, let's go into and kind of expand on the idea of the 0 to 1 mentality, especially for people that maybe have never heard of it before.
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's first talk about what do we even mean about, we're going to talk the whole hour about 0 to 1. What does it even mean? So in the Silicon Valley tech startup product context, what it really means is starting from nothing to something. So as the word suggests, it's like starting with a blank slate. So that's the 0. And the reason it's 0 to 1 and not 0 to 100 is because the idea is not to make it a masterpiece or perfection, but you started with nothing and now you have something. And hopefully it's directionally tending towards the masterpiece, the perfection that you have. So in the product world, we call it an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. So it's something out there that you can iterate and test and then get it to the perfection scale. So the closest real life analogy I can give is kind of launching a rocket, right? So the initial propulsion and the energy needed, the fuel needed to get it off the ground is that much more. And but once it's at that speed or velocity, the incremental velocity, even if it's tending faster and faster, is that much incrementally less. So the step function has already happened. And that's why there is value. There's also a lot of challenges and unknowns, as we are going to talk about, in that 0 to 1. But it's also like I said, to me, I find a lot of value and fulfillment, and I gravitate towards that. So it's fun.
Very excellent. Thank you for going over that with us. Okay, so one of the questions that we got a lot was from people asking about resources or ways that they can kind of learn more about 0 to 1. Are there any that you recommend, or is it just kind of a case of start Googling and see what information you find? I'm not sure if this is something that maybe different people implement in different ways.
Yeah, so the 0 to 1 kind of became more of a household, or took a global hold by the book of the same of the namesake from Peter Thiel. So obviously that's a good resource, and he is obviously a legend in the Valley. So he has started a lot of these companies. That's a good resource. Also listening to founders, entrepreneurs who are actually building and doing this on a day-to-day basis, learning about their successes, how they got started, especially in the initial phases. I think there are lots of resources and podcasts available now, depending on what your field is and so on. So I recommend that. But to me, I would say the greatest resource, like once we have kind of identified that, yes, I want to try my hands at it, or this is for me, is to, if you're like me, you want to get your hands dirty and really like get started with the next project. Maybe it's a idea that you already have incubating on the side, so just get started with it, or within your span of career space or like your company, try to see opportunities where you can start doing that. So doing more than after you've figured out that that's for you.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So, like I said, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. So if y'all have questions you'd like to ask, please feel free. I will tell you this time goes a lot faster than you think. So please feel free to ask your question if you'd like. So the next thing that we wanted to go over, this person had asked, how can we implement this mindset in our own lives? Are there any skills that we need to develop before we can successfully implement it?
Yeah. So, you can, anyone can do it, honestly, and there's no right or wrong answer. You might not like, and that's totally fine too. I think understanding if it is for you or not is the greatest learning you would have of the exercise, and hopefully after this talk. But in order to implement it, I would say you should be comfortable with unknowns, because we went over that word a couple of times now. There are a lot of unknowns. When you see a blank slate, it's scary sometimes, and it's scary initially a lot more if you haven't dealt with it. Some people can see, oh, it's like the world is my oyster, but some people also want to have something to tether to and then grab onto and have incremental changes. So there'll be a lot of unknowns. So you just have to be okay and comfortable with it. There are also a lot of learnings and failures along the way. You have to be okay with that as well. There's a lot of learning that comes with failure too. People don't talk about it often, but I think as humans, we learn the most after having a stumble here and there and learnings and failures from life. So having that mindset of just a can-do attitude and just taking risks and just being okay that it may or may not work, and then iterating continuously as to like, if this is the wrong path and it led you on a dead end, let's take a U-turn and try a different one, and just not giving up and like keeping on iterating at it. That's the right mindset.
I absolutely agree. It's something that we talk about from time to time at Power to Fly, is this idea that you shouldn't let perfect be the enemy of the good. So, you know, kind of just keep moving forward and keep trying things. We also subscribe to the belief of fail fast, so that way you're not wasting a ton of time on something. But one of the things I really enjoy about that idea and having that as part of our company culture, and it sounds like it's part of AfterPay as well, is the idea that you know, if people that know a lot of things, people that are smart, that are really like, you know, experts in their field, or really, you know, great people to talk to about things, they don't get that way because they've had success upon success upon success. They get that way because you don't learn anything from success. You learn things from failure. Exactly. So if if you're not learning anything from it, is it really that valuable to you? Like, yeah, success is great. And, you know, it launches you into the next place where you can take bigger risks or learn more things. But you're right. It's definitely something that you have to be comfortable with failure if you are in the process of learning, if you want to learn something new and kind of go in a new direction. So, yeah. Okay. So the next question that we had was about the risk involved, right? So this person had wanted to know, can the risk averse among us utilize the 0 to 1 mindset? Is there any way to analyze the apparent risk factors? Sometimes it's less about having the nerve to take a risk than having the resources or support to take the big risk. So let's tackle the first question first about, like, you know, is it possible to utilize the 0 to 1 mindset if you are just super risk averse?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the idea of 0 to 1 is obviously by definition a little bit risky. You're taking a risk at something, but for the greater good. So I would like to flip that and say, usually when we talk about risk, it's because we're underpinning the definition of success on something, and usually it's a little bit narrow. Again, no qualms about that, or depending on what stage you are in your career, it's totally fine. Maybe you exactly know what you want. Oftentimes when I mentor people and ask the why, the 3 whys questions, then you figure out that they don't really know why. But let's unpack that, right? So the definition of success, in a lot of times, especially early on in your career, you just pin it on, it's like, oh, I want to get that quote unquote corner office, whatever, metaphorically, whatever that means, or that job, that that company's logo on my resume, or the next promotion, or a certain equity package, so a certain base salary, or it's either monetary or it's relatively superficial. So if you just expand your definition of what success looks like, and in this case, you want success to you in a 0 to 1 space, or something new, challenging, is learning. Are you surrounding yourself with the right people? So even if you're starting from the ground floor, so that's another way to think about it. It's like when something is new, you're typically starting with a small focused tiger team, or like a smaller team, which is chipping away things to get to that 0 to 1 space, and it's from the ground floor. So do you find value in that? And if that's your definition of success, that's the foundation, now you know how to build from unknown to get to a stage where there is from nothing to something. If that's your definition of success, then you'll always be successful, honestly, in this space. But the traditional definition of success was like, I'm already reached a certain level, how can I take a step back? Or like, what will my peers say? Or my peers are progressing, but I'm actually going back. So we need to like throw away these traditional concepts a little bit and value learning. I think I personally value continuous learning. And if I'm not learning, and the moment I reach that steady state, just the nature of me, I think I start getting bored. So I want to look for the next challenge, the next problem that we can solve. So I would say the risk award amongst you, I would say, ask yourself, reflect a little bit as to why do you find this proposition or next project, proposal, job risky. And if the answer is because of certain things, and it's totally fine to have those constraints, because these definitions sometimes are constraining. And depending on where you are in your career, if you're just starting off, you might want to say, let me just put something, show the world what I have, and then I'm ready. Or if you're at the stage where you have a lot more to lose than give, that's totally fine. But figure out when you will be the most untethered, and then you will have a lot more scope and free canvas to play with.
I absolutely love that idea. And you're right. The idea of kind of defining that success for yourself, or defining, what you're risking this for, is completely, it's super important, right? Because the benefits can far outweigh the risk in a lot of ways. And I absolutely love that idea. Now, when it comes to people that really, like they don't have the resources, like they're not privileged, I know puts people's back up a lot, but the idea of not having the ability to take a risk like that, are there certain ways that you can still utilize this, like kind of pushing in small ways? Or do you think that there are times when it's absolutely required to be successful to really take a huge risk and really put yourself out on a limb?
Yeah, I think there's a reason why we say, right, no risk, no reward, or high risk, higher the reward. So having said that, based on, like I said, in your personal situation, you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket. So yeah, I'm not suggesting that you put all your personal savings into one idea that you have that may or may not work. It's up to you. So that there are degrees of risk tolerance level that you can monitor. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You can start with small, with some side project, like I said, or something in your personal life. That could be even career focused or something. If you have a larger portfolios, assume at your workplace, you could have a side one project that is a little bit more challenging than your comfort zone. So start small. That's one way to look at it, or bank on good mentors and group and people. So one thing that you don't have always the luxury to all the things that I said, like start small or do something on the side. And people might say, oh, easy for her to say. Fine. I think if it's a startup or something you want to put all your eggs again in one basket, make sure that basket is being tried and tested. And what I mean by that is the people working there, the people you're surrounding yourself with, see what how you can learn from them, and have they already done this in the past and have seen successes and stuff. That way you can tag along to a really good portfolio, or like a group of people that you're constantly learning and you're all moving forward. If that's not possible, then just like reach out to your mentors, your resources. I'm sure mentor, I cannot emphasize enough, having a mentor, and as early as possible. It's hard to get one and find that, again, product market fit, to give a product example. But once you find one, I think always reach out to your mentor and see if they might already anticipate some risk factors, or might flag some red flags that you may or may not see. That's why they are mentors. They have learned from their experiences. And so use these resources and see if that works as well. And again, I think going back to the first thing that I said, it's kind of like, it depends on your definition of success, right? I think if it's a startup world, for example, it may completely go to the ground and fail. I think 80% of the startups fail. We already know that stat. but the learning that comes out of it, and the different hats that you're wearing, and the breadth of scope that you'll have, that will take you the next thing you will do after that will be that much more rewarding. So broaden your idea of success a little bit, and I think that will hopefully help you make that decision.
I think you're right, and I completely second your point about mentoring and having a mentor. It's one of those things that we get asked a lot. We have a lot of chats that we've done on this because it is, it's so important, but it also can kind of seem so murky of like, well, how do you find one? How do you get one? So if you are interested in chats on mentors and mentorships, please check out the link that I'm sending you. It's a link to a search of our archived videos. So there's a lot of chats there where we talk about both mentoring and how to find a mentor, how mentorship can really help you throughout your career, ways to utilize mentors that you already have in place, all that kind of stuff. So please feel free to check that out if you guys are interested in more information on that subject. Okay, so when we talked about the ideas of success and risk, one of the things that a lot of people wanted to know is, do the like meanings of these or the importance of these, should these change throughout our careers, or should the idea of success, you talked about what success means to someone and how you can change that, but should our attitude towards these things also change as we go throughout our careers or throughout our lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's also not one size fits all. It's hard to give a blanket answer. I feel like it's a little bit of an individual taste as well. As you go throughout your career journey, it changes as well, for sure. And like everything in life, as you get more mature and see more things and have more maybe feathers in your cap, you start seeing things differently, for sure. So so the short answer is yes, but also I think it's a combination of your individual personality, like how you define success. Again, in the traditional sense, are you just following your peers, or the traditional idea of like name, money, title, going up the ladder? And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, there's a reason why it's a traditional definition of success. Or is it about constantly doing different things and learning and getting the breadth of knowledge? And always being a learner, and surrounding yourself with smarter people. I always say that if you happen to be in a room and you think that you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. That idea has worked for me. So I need to change the room. I want to always learn from people who are better than me, than things that I can always incrementally put a new version of Trupti 2.0, 3.0 out there for the world, which is hopefully incrementally better, that I've grabbed from other people and learning from other people. So at my career and also otherwise. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that answers that question. But then again, I think you work with your personal coach, mentor to come to the idea of what success means to you at that stage in your life. And only you can answer that. But definitely take the time to answer that so that you can tailor the rest of the things in your life to make that happen, and cut out the things that are actually not bringing joy in your life.
Do you think that there's, just on a personal question, do you think there are, maybe set steps in your career, or that should, at which point you should be re-examining these things and try and, evaluating whether your attitude towards it, your definition of it has changed? Or do you think it's less about where you are in your career and more just kind of continuously looking at this, every couple years, or every couple, twice a year or something like that? Is there any kind of structure to that, or do you think that's really just individual to the person or what their goals are?
That's a great question. Honestly, I would say continuous reflection hasn't hurt anyone, so that's always great, but there could be milestones you can put. So for example, there was, when I first started at Uber, I was there for almost close to 4 years, and I was learning and doing so much that I wasn't even interested in any other opportunities. Like, why would I change that? Like, I have the best job in the world. So if you're fulfilled, that itself is your answer. You don't need to change anything. So don't re-examine if you are just like living the dream job. But then when it comes to a time when it's steady state, right? Coming back to the 0 to 1, like if you have reached that 1 and that incremental learning kind of starts to not be a step function change, then maybe you want to re-examine and see what do you want to do. So go by milestones, I would say, and re-examine when you want to, when you're ready for another challenge to jump at, and not necessarily like time-based or anything. But initially, when you're just getting out of school, probably what you want to do is just have a job. Like having a job itself is probably good enough, and then learn at the job. Everything is learning, right? Because you're coming from an academic background, corporate world is very different. But then once you've reached that comfort zone of like, okay, now I have a good understanding, then a couple years down the line or something, just re-examine, is this what I want to continue going deeper? Or do I want to broaden like the T diagram? Like, do I want to broaden the breadth of my knowledge? Or do I love where I'm at? I love everything about this company, the culture, the team, the manager, what have you. And then I want to keep going deeper. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. That choice between, kind of being, like you said, like broadening your knowledge base and being kind of that like jack of all trades versus, kind of siloing and becoming like a subject matter expert in one thing. There's nothing wrong with either path. It's just whatever you want to pursue. And maybe that changes throughout your career. Maybe instead of, kind of picturing it as a T, you start at the T and then it turns into a Y. And so eventually you do, specialize into something smaller. That's totally fine. I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, giving a personal example, like, even though I've changed so much in my career, I think the arc has always been fintech. And I'm lucky enough to find those opportunities in the space, because when I first graduated from grad school and was at a credit card benchmarking company, I just fell in love with payments and everything about it, even though back in the day, fintech wasn't hot. It's not like the talk of the town that it is today. The fintech word wasn't even there. It was the boring back-end processing, APRs and revolving balances, but you either like it or you don't. That's the world of payments in general. And I just happen to have those connections, but everything that I've done in the space is kind of different. So you could do that as well. Speaking of the T term, like the space has always been fintech, but I've done credit card benchmarking. I've done gift cards from a more established company like Amazon, to starting and launching gift cards, to Uber Eats, completely different, but risk, which is again very much to do with payments, money movement, disbursement. There was a gift card angle there too. And now it's cards, but in a retail, and retail traditionally is something I have not worked on. It's Amazon, eBay's are like it's the opposite. It's e-commerce, not brick and mortar commerce. So you can still find ways to learn, is what I'm saying, even though it's in the broader T space.
Okay. So on that same thread, can you share any examples of ways you demonstrated that 0 to mindset in practice, like particularly in your career history?
Yeah, so I would say first you have to be lucky enough to find that kind of project that you like. If you don't find that passion towards seeing the success, like I said, seeing the something in nothing is not easy. So something has to drive you. And so it has to be something, the mission, the people, the vision board, the ideas that you have. So once you have found that, how I've demonstrated that is to just like try and test and learn. So just test your ideas, like we discussed in the previous answer somewhere was a lot of things will fail. And what people see is only successes, but like you have to keep iterating and see what sticks, what lands, and keep iterating and seeing. Once it lands, then it's then you keep changing little things and see how it's making progress towards the end result. So eyes on the prize always, and then see how different ideas are sticking and landing, and just incrementally make changes once something sticks to narrow that gap from what the vision is to where you're at. And so you'll get there. So I know that's a pretty high level answer, but I don't know if you want like anecdotes or
Yeah, sure. Is there, obviously there's a lot of like security and stuff associated around this, but is there any example you can share with us of, when sometime you were lucky enough to find a project like that?
So again, I'll have to probably harken back to the Uber Eats days. I would say having the resources that I had, which are like risk experts that I was surrounded with at Uber, was important. And then learning from them, and then again changing it to what a three-party marketplace would incorporate and would have is my contribution to it. But then listening and learning from the experts who already have a good handle and idea of what's working and they have tried and tested, I think is important. And I think that worked for me because there wasn't that much time to show progress, so to speak. But what I had was people and resources and things that have and have not worked. And so you kind of start applying that. And obviously there's no perfect template, right? In this area, there's no perfect playbook or template. But then you kind of, with experience and as time goes by, you kind of know what will stick, and you just go with that hunch and gut feeling. So that's another thing that's not spoken, or we haven't touched upon it here, is like you will just have that hunch, and there's a lot of that. You just have to go with the gut feeling, and you get that from either experience or, like I said, because of the passion that you have towards the goal, and it will work.
Okay. So just want to highlight for y'all, we have it's a little less than 20 minutes because we're going to save the last like 5 to 8 minutes at the end of this chat to highlight some of AfterPay's open roles, as well as talk a little bit more in depth about the company culture. So if you have questions or you have comments or you want to go deeper into a specific subject, please feel free to let us know so that way we can do that before time runs out today. So one of these ideas that was talked about in the registration page for today's event was this idea of prioritizing the unknown. This person had written in that they frequently feel overwhelmed by the process of launching a product. So could you share an example with us of how you prioritize the unknown in your tech career and what that actually, like, especially like what it actually means if somebody hasn't really heard that phrase before?
Sure. Yeah. Prioritization is key. And I would say it's always a work in progress, because there will always be more things than you want to do. But like we say in tech, like ruthless prioritization is important if you really want to put a quality product out there and want to get more done from less. So if you want to tackle everything, there will never be enough people, resources, hours in the day to do all of it. So you have to keep asking your end consumers and stakeholders as to like, what are the key top 2 or 3 things, and then just keep working at those with the highest quality that you can. And it's a struggle, I think it's always, like I said, that's why it's a work in progress, because no one likes to hear that we are not going to be able to support X or Y, or this project feature, whatever it is below the fold. It's not, especially if that's very dear to them, or it directly correlates with their OKRs, or that's in their domain. But having a mechanism, and again, coming from a very data-driven, impact-driven aspect of prioritizing things, and then making it super clear that this is why X and Y and Z landed below the fold, but look at what we are going to do with the time and resources that we have, which is far more, which is going to make a bigger dent. And everyone kind of agreeing to that will help you in the long run. And it's like I said, it's easier said than done. It's a constant battle and a struggle, because you'll never have enough resources, and it's the beauty of it, right? Because the beauty of constraint is when creativity unleashes. So if you had unlimited resources, you wouldn't be creative enough to chip away the 80-20 rule. Like, how can you do more with less? That would never be a problem. But because it is the problem, it kind of actually is a beautiful problem to have. So you can constantly stack rank and ruthlessly prioritize, and then put a quality product out there. So I would recommend this person, unless they wanted to specify any particular example. But I would say you need to have one metric, one area, one thing that you prioritize with, whether it's impact, it's something. You have to ground and agree on one metric, whether it's the product that you're launching, right? If it's like 10 features like that make the incremental impact to the consumer, and your net survey scores and stuff should go up. So whatever it is in your world, if it's a consumer product or a B2B or a backend or a risk or whatnot, agree on one metric, and then use that consistently to measure it. And then that will automatically be helpful for you to know which problem should you go after first.
Okay. No, I love that idea, and the, kind of evaluating it for ourselves, and really, kind of digging in, and not just trying to, I guess, kind of like shorthand it and be like, well, that sounds hard, so no, or I'm not sure about that, so no. I like the idea of really, kind of investigating and digging into the idea of what you're risking, or what you stand to gain by the way you think you should proceed. So a lot of the people, obviously, that are attending this session are here because they are, they're looking for employment, or they're interested in AfterPay. So is there a good way that people can showcase that 0 to 1 mindset during hiring interviews? Is it something that you should point to with, something in your work history, an achievement or a project you worked on? Or is it more something that you should be displaying as, kind of core to your decision-making process, or core to who you are as an employee?
That's a great question. Yes. So I would say, first of all, find out if the job even requires that, right? Because like I said, it's not the end all be all and a one size fits all that all companies, all job requirements have. There is a lot of value and beauty in, like, when steady state happens, and then finding that incremental progress as well. So I don't want you to fit this a square peg in a round hole. So first figure out if that's really what you want, and that's what the job requirement is. But let's assume that is what it is. And for those cases, I would say, particularly on what you asked, I would say both. So you have to show, if you have something in your work history, and even if you are just starting off, maybe in your career, academic history, or outside work, kind of, just, it's a mentality, and it's the can-do attitude. I would go with that. It's a can-do attitude of just like, yes, I there will be a lot of unknowns, but I will just throw myself at it and like, let's figure it out kind of an attitude is what works in this space. So if that's what's needed of the job, I think that's the kind of skill set you want to show in the past when you were faced with challenges or unknowns, and how did you go about doing it and still like figured out how to move forward with little to no information. And you have to demonstrate and keep demonstrating that. I think that's a valuable skill set. I think most smaller, fast-moving, hyper-growth startups, all of these kind of fall in the same category of like they would not have a set job description. No one can ever, even if they do, it will change your day-to-day, how your life will look like. If there's no set answer to that. And that's why I think people gravitate towards that, is because of the dynamicity and growth and the learning that you'll see in a short period of time. It's like a condensed learning course. So yeah, just showing a predisposition towards not being afraid of exploring the unknown, and not needing a certain hand-holding or like a certain guide, so to speak. It's not like step 1, open the box, step 2, plug it in, and step 3, turn the food processor on, and step 4, you'll have voila. So if that's what you want initially, and there's no right or wrong answer as we've talked about it, right? Initially, you might want that a little bit. Yeah, you don't want to immediately get thrown in the deep end and just like, okay, start swimming now. So once you figure out that you'll be okay with it, then demonstrate how you have done it in the past. That always resonates than just saying, hey, I can do that, but how and why, and like that helps the hiring manager to make that decision as well.
No, I love that. I think it's one of those things that, it can seem really unusual, right? To try and figure out like, well, how do I bring this up? Or how do I, kind of organically make this clear without just kind of stating facts? Like people if you come into an interview and say things like, well, I'm very trustworthy. Okay, demonstrate that. And at least in my experience, granted, not a ton of hiring, but like in, personal, like, social events, that kind of thing, people that tell you statements like that about themselves, especially when it's not really part of the discussion, it honestly automatically makes me think, well, no, you're not. Why would you say that? Like, why, hi, nice to meet you. I'm very trustworthy. So yeah, I love that idea of trying to, kind of work it in and make it something that really resonates throughout, as like a running theme throughout, your career and your even just like, what job you're coming from recently. Hey, I didn't do this previously, but in like my work history, but in my last job, I started learning about this and wanted to implement it. And it's something I'm, very passionate about including going forward, or, kind of sticking with. Okay, so we only have a couple questions left, and I want to make sure we save time for discussion about AfterPay and the future roles and stuff. I know there were a lot of questions, so I'm going to try and see if we can get to maybe like 2 more. This person had asked, are there situations where the 0 to 1 mindset might be less helpful? We had a lot of people ask about if it was like a career specific skill, or if the methods were useful in our personal lives too. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked a lot about 0 to 1, but let's talk about where it doesn't apply. And the one thing that comes to mind is compliance, regulatory requirements, security, those kind of things which are gaining a lot more mainstream and traction as they should. It's like, that's not a space you want to show creativity. Like whatever is very like rule-based, like people's privacy, it's like very binary. Either it's there or it's not. Compliance, again, I don't have a ton of personal experience, but obviously being in risk, I was working parallelly with the compliance team. It's like, those are the rules and regulations of the country you're operating in, the state you're operating in, whatever the region you're operating in, you follow them to the nth degree. Like there's no wiggle room there. There's very little nuance there. And so that's not a place you want to bring your creativity outside the box. Thinking too much would be my personal opinion. and also tried and trusted methods and like science and stuff like that, right? It's kind of like software and tech obviously gives you a lot of breadth and room to play with, but other traditional avenues, I would say there will be a little bit less of that because it's just has a lot more history and what's grounded in science, and it is not that much to change and again have your own opinion or anything about that. So with rule-based, a lot more stringent environment, I would say you'll have less wiggle room, so to speak, and then there are degrees of it. And a new disruptive space, like something brand new, obviously you'll have a lot more because you can put your own stamp on it, right? And you can define it the way you want. So that's the range of completely inflexible to having a lot more degrees of freedom.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Last question we're going to try and cover here. A lot of what we talked about, kind of taking these risks and really evaluating these things, these opportunities or these projects that come into your orbit. These things kind of rely pretty heavily on you being the decision maker. So if you're not, let's say you're part of a team and you're trying to, either get people on board with integrating the solution that you think is the best, or even just trying to get people to understand why you think this is the best, or this is worth the risk or an option you should pursue. How does that communication and collaboration work? Is this is it truly something you have to own and have the decision-making powers all on your own, or are there ways to really kind of get people up to speed and get them on board with what you're suggesting if they're not from that 0 to 1 mindset kind of camp?
Yeah, typically, I guess I'm guessing everyone working on this project would have the same goals and same eventual vision and end goal, but there are obviously you could be working with a lot of stakeholders, and I would say use data. So I'm a huge believer. Obviously, I work in data science. Data-driven decision making, I have seen in the past, will get the least amount of pushbacks because it just becomes that much transparent. It's kind of like either it's there or it's not, or it kind of moves the conversation more towards why than the how, and like the double click of the equation, so to speak. So use as much information as you have, and that is data, and make it more palatable. Like I said, normalize it to one metric. If you're showing that this will help you increase your top line, but this will help you increase consumers, like these are, use the same metric basically for all the things that you're showing, because those could be, those might have a lot of overlap. So it has to be mutually exclusive, and then you can show impact as to like, these all will move the top line, or all these things are there and initiatives to move the bottom line. And then you can stack rank and like move people along and let the stakeholders or the decision makers make the decision based off of the information that they are presented with. And some of it might be just like showcasing that and having that discussion up front. The other thing that I see in this question is like going in, I would say, just make sure you have clear roles. Like you're right, like when you said like, not, you may or may not be the decision maker in every single, for my team, I can make a decision where we are going to spend this sprint cycle in, and how some people on my team should be spending their time and such to make that incremental impact and make that dent. But when it comes to other functions, which I'm not owning, obviously I can only influence that. And so the way to influence is using as much information that you have and to put it forward, saying, these would be my recommended path, and give them more than one option so that they can pick. based on what they're trying to optimize for. So path 1 could be optimizing for the top line, path 2 could be optimizing for the bottom line, path 1 could be optimizing for the short term, path 2 could be a little bumpy in the short term, but eventually it's better for the long term. And so depending on what we are trying to achieve here, that makes easier for the decision makers to make that decision. So either influence or make the decision based on one data-driven metric. That would be the TLDR.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we've got about 4 minutes left. I'm going to put back up our screen here. What you're seeing right now is it's a questionnaire that we asked Trupti to fill in prior to today's session, and it was more about the company culture at AfterPay. So one of the things that I'm interested in is the word you chose to describe the company culture. So you said warm. Could you expand on that or tell us why you picked it?
Yeah, I think I would say even though we are growing at a hyper growth pace and we are almost like a startup, I mean, we are a public company, but still in the US, we are pretty nascent, only 3 years old. And the function that I work on, like I said, has not even seen a full 365 days around the sun. So it's very high paced, and you would expect cutthroat competition, but it's very warm. People are like the people are the nicest, warmest, most helpful, really great culture that we have built here. And so it's kind of, I wanted to highlight because it's not oftentimes heard in the Valley. And so definitely something to highlight. And I really appreciate and admire and thank my lucky stars.
Oop, there we go. Sorry, I think I just muted you accidentally. We've got some of your top tips for someone who's interviewing. It's talking about having a can-do attitude and be scrappy but thoughtful. I love this idea of scrappy but thoughtful. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, so you have to be scrappy in the sense because, like I said, it's you will be faced with a lot of unknowns, and you just have to iterate and like see what works and do some back of the envelope math sometimes, or like just try to land something, stick multiple things, throw multiple things at the wall and see what sticks. But thoughtful in the sense that if you're just trying and we don't want to have the hamster wheel kind of situation, right? It's like hard work is good and it's needed, but also with a little bit of like knowing when to drop that idea and move on to the next one, A/B test and see which one works better, and just like incrementally moving towards up and to the right, like we say, it's kind of like, so it's moving towards that vision. So scrappiness and being a little bit of a hustler is in all the positive senses needed when you're dealing with unknowns and like fast-paced, continuously moving pivots. But bringing a little bit of that thoughtfulness, it could be your past life experience, work experience, will help you.
Okay, great. So we have a slide up here that's talking about the open jobs at AfterPay. I shared another link to where you can check these links out or check these jobs out on Power to Fly's website, as well as there's the careers.afterpay.com website where you can just go directly to their site to fill out applications. Obviously, I recommend you go through us so that we can show AfterPay that we have amazing candidates, but it doesn't hurt your career chances. We don't take a cut of salaries, nothing like that. So obviously, you can do it whichever way you like. Are there any on this list or maybe any roles that you want to highlight? I know you said at the beginning that you specifically are hiring as well.
The first one is mine, yes. So if you liked what you heard today and want to work with me and my team and all the good stuff that we're putting out there, then please apply. The second one, it would be my kind of peer. We'll be liaisoning with that a lot, but it's also super important. And obviously, we want technical recruiting talent as well. So all of them are super important. And if any of that speaks to you or you're in that job function or area, please do apply. But yeah, the first one would be in my team.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that. I just want to highlight again, AfterPay is hiring, and we're so happy that they were kind enough to loan us Trupti for the afternoon. And I want to say a big thank you to you, Trupti. This was so great. And I know it's not just the hour you spend with us. There's a lot of prep work that goes into this on the back end. So I really appreciate you taking time to spend with our community and help share with us your expertise. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You have been a great moderator, and I hope some people are now interested to join some 0 to 1 kind of thinking project, company, whatever that's out there. So thank you so much. And thanks, Kevin, as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And a huge thank you to our attendees. These were some really amazing questions that y'all submitted prior to today's session. So we're so grateful for those. And hopefully we'll see many more of you joining us on upcoming events with Power to Fly. So until then, happy Friday. I hope everybody has a great, safe and healthy weekend this weekend. And can't wait to see you on upcoming chats. Bye.